Welcome to The Sober Unicorn. We are a gay-hosted, all-inclusive podcast about sobriety and addiction recovery for the LGBT plus community and all of our allies. I am your host, Holden, and thank you for joining us today. Hey everybody, it's Holden back here again with The Sober Unicorn. I hope everybody's having an incredible day. So of course, I want to preface this episode by putting a small disclaimer of no matter what walk of life your recovery is, whether it's NA, CA, AA, Dharma recovery, CBT, whatever it is, if that's what's right for you, that's what matters. So the most common goal is bettering yourself, getting sober, getting off the addiction, whether it's drugs, sex, alcohol, whatever the addiction may be. So today we have one of my good Judys. So she has been around the rooms for a hot minute. She's been around the block, as we would say, I would say. And then she's there for people in recovery. She's very active in her recovery. And so I wanted to get her on and kind of discuss like her journey. So hello, Rachel.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm doing well, and you?
I'm doing fabulous. I mean, we're in South Florida. We're in what? Like Fort Lauderdale-ish area, and it is fucking freezing.
I know.
I put my heater on today. I've noticed, of course, we have like 99 mutual friends, and so most of our friends, they don't even have heaters in their house because we live in South Florida. You don't need it.
I have one in my living room. Like, that's the joy of my house, is that I have like a window unit in each room so I can control the temperature. So I have like in
Ooh.
my living room, which is kind of like central to all the rooms, that's the one AC that has heat. I haven't even had it on. I love it.
You know what I've noticed too was, so when I was searching for apartments before we found this one, I noticed that like 80%, I would say, of units here in Florida don't have central air. Like window units is like the most common thing.
It keeps my electric bill down.
Ugh. Well, my electric bill is only like $80 and I keep my AC on 72 at all times.
That's crazy. Mine's like 60. But I have animals, so I leave a unit on all day.
Yeah, same. But I mean, I don't know if maybe because Florida used to be where everybody like open windows and just let the breeze come in. I don't, whatever. Anywho, so why don't you kind of like give everybody kind of a baseline and kind of where your journey was and where it's taken you today?
So, I I come from a family that I found as I got into recovery. I come from a family that actually has addicts throughout in different aspects. Um, first time I ever did any kind of drug, I smoked weed with my sister. I was like 11. My sister's 8.5 years older than I am. Um, growing up, my dad had a heart condition and he smoked a lot of weed, right? Which that's normal. Like, I have no issues with that. Please don't, anybody watching, please don't think that like I'm anti whatever, because I'm not. That was the norm growing up. And then with my dad having all of his health issues, I never realized how addicted he was to his pain medications. And I dibbled and dabbled in a whole bunch of stuff my whole life, and until I was 13 and I broke my knee and started my journey of pain medication, I never really had anything that like stood out to me or like brought me to my knees. So from the age of 13 to the age of 34, I was well, yeah, 34. I was severely addicted to any kind of narcotic as a pain medication. Not I never did find joy in any of the other drugs. I could put them down. Then I would dibble and dabble, but nothing ever stuck other than pain medication. And at first I had a really hard time understanding that I was an addict, because in my mind I was in chronic pain, so I needed this, and it was a prescribed medication. So until I found ways and means to get more, and ended up going to jail and spending a lengthy time incarcerated, was when I had to realize, okay, maybe something might be wrong. So, um, I unfortunately had become a multiple time convicted felon at the age, by the time I got sentenced, I was 35. Um, I had to spend a lengthy amount of time incarcerated, and, actually, no, I'm sorry, I was 36. By the time I got sentenced and did all my time, I was 36. So I, I had to figure out, like, I got married when I was in my my mid 20s. Um, I have three beautiful children as a result of that horrible divorce. Well, actually, I'm sorry, horrible marriage. The divorce was glorious. um, you know, and unfortunately, when I was incarcerated, my ex-husband had taken my children to the other side of the country and sent me a letter while I was in jail that said, "Hey, by the time you get this, we're gone." And that was when I really needed to start doing some soul searching. Um, I I did my time. I did my probation, my treatment, all that stuff. I went to treatment with 18 months clean. Um,
Okay.
so I know none of the fellowships or any of them endorse treatment. It is my story. And I ended up having to go to treatment 100% abstinent of everything. So
Which is crazy.
it is
How
crazy,
did treatment even take you?
because it was court ordered.
Oh, okay. Okay.
It was part of my sentence. So I had to do 6 months of community control with an ankle monitor at a state run treatment center.
Oh,
Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
mhm.
Um, so I did what I needed to do. I got out. I hit the ground running. Um, you know, I um, I made it a point to keep in the back of my mind the things that brought me to where I was at, right? And, like, whenever I share my story, I share that when I got out of treatment, I went in front of my judge. Actually, I asked my probation officer for travel permission to go get my kids. My ex-husband is still to this day in serious active addiction. And he lives in, well, actually, I don't even really know where he lives right now. I think he's kind of transient. But where they were living with my children was in this really podunk, rundown, in the middle of nowhere trailer park. And when I found out where they were at, I actually called the sheriff's office out there and was like, look, I need your help. I'm on felony probation. I'm not trying to get caught up in the middle of nowhere. I just want to come get my kids. And the sheriff's department, when they found out where my kids were at, they're like, we wish we could go get them for you. They're like, that's the worst place to be. There's pedophiles. It's drug infested. All of that. So they're like, however, it's a civil matter. We can't really get involved. So I went to my probation officer. He's like, nope, I'm not letting you go. I was like, oh no, I'm not getting no for an answer. Not doing it. And you know me, so like, if I put my mind to something, I'm gonna do it. So
Mhm.
I went behind my PO's back, and I sent an email to my judge's judicial assistant. And by this time, I'd already early termed off of community control, and I was just on regular felony probation. So I asked the judge for travel permission. I'm like, look, I only need 24 hours. I'm literally going to fly to Oregon, grab my kids, and fly right back. And the judge looked at me and he was like, no, these things can take time. He's like, I'm not going to
Mhm.
put a 24-hour time period on it. He said, just make sure that, the court and your probation officer know where you are. and go get your kids. So I went to my probation office to give the paperwork to my PO, and he got so mad that he was like, "Okay, just a minute. Go ahead and have a seat in the lobby." So, and he was the same guy that I had when I was on community control. Never had an issue. I was always where I was supposed to be, and he got mad that I went behind his back and went to the judge. So he transferred me, and he thought he was screwing me over by transferring me to another PO. Little did he know that's the best thing that he could have done for me, because my new probation officer, she was amazing. Um, you know, she was like, "You have all this time clean already." Now, I will preface, I don't include the time that I was incarcerated in my clean time. And the reason I do that is because I wasn't working any kind of a program, and I was kind of forced in a position to be abstinent. So it wasn't by choice. Um, I was released from incarceration from lockdown because I did addict behavior while I was incarcerated, which got me in trouble. So I was I was in solitary.
Oh my God.
So yeah, so I don't that's why I don't count my clean time from there. I count from, my clean date is actually the day that I got released. So
Okay.
So I have a little over 8 years, but in technicality, I would be actually coming up on 10 years.
That's 10 years is such a long time.
I know. So, but like, and when I look at it that way, like a lot of people are like, but that time counts. I'm like, technically, in all technicality, it does.
Yeah.
But to me, personally, it doesn't, because I didn't have the option of saying like, this is the day that I stop. This is the day that I surrender. And
So how was the detox? Like, did the jail system give you something to detox, or was it just a dry detox?
it was a dry detox.
Oof, that's rough, especially from pills.
Yeah. You,
Pills are never. I mean, pills are not easy to come down from.
no. And the crazy thing was, like, when it got to the point, like, my family had, like, been done with me. So, like, by the time I got arrested, like, I was literally homeless. There's a clubhouse down here that I have actually, like, I'm very grateful when I go there, because there were nights that I actually slept behind it. So
Is it the same clubhouse I'm thinking of? Like the one I used to go to a couple meetings there.
no,
Starts with oh, okay, okay.
no. Um, so the fellowship that I belong to only has one meeting there a week, but I didn't know that at the time.
Hmm. Okay.
So, so anyway, when I went to go get my kids, the sheriff's like, "Look, we can't get involved. It's a civil matter. Um, but what I might be able to do is maybe be like at the end of the street or be close by. You let us know when you're close. That way, if there's an issue, at least we're close." I'm like, "All right, that's fair." I guess they had thought about this some more, because when I got out there, the deputy I was talking to said, "Call me when you're about an hour away." And here's the ironic thing, right? I'm calling him, he's not answering me. He finally calls me when I'm about 20 minutes away. He's like, "I apologize." He's like, "We just had a big meth bust and I was in the middle of doing it." I was in the middle of inventory. And I was like, this is just my luck, right?
Yeah, you're like, can I have some? No.
So, so when I got there, my mom and I, we knew exactly what time the bus came. My mom went out there with me. We knew exactly what time the bus came to get my twins, because my twins and my younger daughter are 5 years apart. So my younger daughter was 3, about to turn 4, and my twins were in elementary school. So I knew what time the bus came, because one of my twins knew I was coming. She didn't know when, but she knew I was coming, because I told her, because I needed to get information from her and I needed to tell her why. But I told her, if you tell anybody I can't, then it's not going to work. So she told me what time the bus comes and, this and that. So my mom and I get there a couple minutes early. Of course, we're in a rented vehicle. So if anybody drives by, they're definitely not going to suspect that I'm there. Right. And, as we're sitting there outside of this trailer park, I see a sheriff supervisor truck drive past us, go about a block down the street, turn around and pull off to the side of the road facing us.
Mm.
And then I see ahead of me, I see a squad car about the same distance back facing us the other way. And I guess in the back of their mind they're like, okay, if there's somebody coming here, we probably want to make sure it's a safe environment, right? So as
Hmm.
soon as the bus pulls up, I get out, and mind you, it is December in Oregon. So
Cold.
it is beyond cold, and there's snow on the ground. And here come my kids coming off the bus stop, coming around the front of the bus, and I'm looking at them. I'm like, "Hi, girls, come on!" And they're like in shock, like, "Holy shit, mom's here!" And they come running to me. And one of my daughter's jacket or coat is like has this huge hole under the whole armpit of her jacket, and one of her
Hmm.
shoes is the whole top of it is ripped, and like her foot is flopping out of it as she's coming. And I was like, this is insane. Like even when I was actively using, I was still physically present and made sure my kids were taken care of, even though like emotionally, mentally, I like wasn't there, right? They were always
Hmm.
taken care of. They were bathed, fed, schooled, doctors, all of that. So I get them in the van, and I'm like, all right, so show me where the house is. So we go to pull into this trailer park, and the next thing I know, there's the sheriff supervisor, and the squad car following us in. And I got out of the car, and I started to walk up, and I opened the little gate to get in, and my younger daughter just happens to walk outside the door, and she looked at me, and I was like, "Hi, baby." And she goes, "I know you, but I forgot your name."
Oh.
And that was the biggest punch in the gut that I could have ever gotten, because the last time I had seen her, she was 18 months old.
Mm.
So she knew my voice, she knew my face, but she couldn't put two and two together that I was mom. And I was like, "I'm mommy." I was like, "Come on, let's go." And I yanked her up off the patio, because now there's these like meth addicts with, like trying to come out at me, and I'm just not paying no attention to them. Their dad's not there. My ex mother-in-law is trying to chase me. And as I get to the van, I get in and I put her on my lap, and and my mom starts to drive off, and they're like, "You have a car seat for her, right?" I'm like, "Yeah, but I want to get out of here. I'll put her in it when we get to the front." They're like, "No
Yeah.
problem." So my ex mother-in-law is out there yelling, "She can't take them!" And they're like, "You don't have any custody or any say so in this, so see you later." And we got out to the entrance and down the street, and the sheriff's office followed us. And when we got down the street a little bit, they flipped their lights on for us to pull over, and they were like, we decided that we wanted to just make sure everything was safe. When we saw how the kids reacted when they got off the school bus to seeing you, we wanted to make sure that everything went okay. And they were like, "We're glad that you got them out of that situation, and have a safe trip back to Florida." And it was a
Mm.
3-hour drive back to Portland. So not only did we drive the 3 hours, we stopped and got them some food on the way there, got to the hotel, bathed, fed, everything, getting ready to go to sleep. And my ex husband finally calls, and he's like, "What the hell?" And I'm like, "Oh, it's like 5 hours later, and you just decide that you're going to call and be like, 'Oh my God, you have my kids.'" So, and then that started my journey of, being a mom, and, being a mom in recovery. And like the coolest thing about that is like my kids get to watch me in my recovery. For the longest time, I didn't tell them that I was in recovery. When my twins were about 11, they're now 16. When they were about 11, one of them asked me, Mom, why do you and my ex-partner, why do you guys go to so many meetings? So I was like, all right, now's the time. Sat him down. I'm like, so you remember how I was before you went to Oregon and before I went to jail? And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, and you see how I am now? And they're like, yeah, you're much better. I'm like, those meetings helped me be the way I am now. And their immediate response was, well, can we go with you?
Oh.
So, as you know, because you've seen my children in meetings with me,
Hmm.
my kids are very active in my recovery. There's a spiritual retreat next weekend. My youngest daughter is like all excited; she wants to go with me. Um, and it like here's the thing: like I'm very involved in service. I've done service on every level. Um, I continue to do service on every level because, like, if I can get through this, anybody can get through this, and like I'm there to help the next one, in any way that I can. And so, like, my um my recovery hasn't been easy at all. As far as the using, that's been easy. But life sure the fuck shows up, and life has really lifed for me. And in the last 3 years, I've had a lot of ups and downs. I had a family member try to take custody of my kids for financial gain. Um, with 5 years clean. Um, and of course, I won that. It still broke me financially, emotionally, spiritually on every level because it was a family member that like I would have never thought would have done that. Especially with 5 years clean. Like if they would have come at me when I was actively using, like I would have understood. But like I'm
Yeah.
doing my own thing, and like I still live in the house that I live in today from when I moved out of halfway. I've been in my house for 6.5 years.
Holy moly, that's a long time.
Yeah. So 3 years ago, this person tries to come after me and like let me live my life. Let me do my thing. Let me be a mom, you know? Um, but like the through the relationships that I've forged and the friendships that I've made, my kids have so many aunts and uncles that are not blood related that love them like they are their own. And I had a really traumatic event, happen a few months ago. One of my twins' boyfriends committed suicide,
Yeah,
and
I remember that.
wasn't an addict. Just suffered from severe depression and anxiety and struggling to fit in and stuff. And it's like my sister told me. She's like, I hate to admit it. She's like, but you're probably the most equipped to handle this situation, being with what you're surrounded with in recovery. And unfortunately, but fortunately, she was right, you know? But like, I stay, I stay so active in my recovery that like I know what to do. Like, I mentally struggled very hard. My mental health was put to the test with this because I had to put my daughter in the hospital for a week because she had admitted to having some thoughts. So, because she said it at school, it was they wanted to Baker act her, but they're like, we really don't want to Baker act her. We'd rather you do it voluntarily because we don't want to
Hmm.
traumatize her more. And my daughter's a great kid. She's just an honor roll student. So, but like having to go back and forth for a week to an institution to see my child, like that does something to your psyche. And like I've been through some stuff in the last few years of my recovery that would have taken a lot of people out, but because I stay so centered in what I do, and I stay so strong in my recovery and with my support group, like I was able to get through that. And I was able to go to meetings and openly cry and share like I'm not okay, I'm struggling, but if I keep it in, there's no telling what would happen. So like we've made it through it. My daughter's thriving. Um, it's just that's where we're at. So like I have 8 years, 3 months, and 5 days.
Oh my, did you check that before
I
you
did
got
because
on
I
here?
have an app.
That reminds me of the TikTok where the guy's like making fun of people at meetings, and it's like, I have 6 days, 25 minutes, 397
Yeah.
seconds. Like,
So, but like, here's the thing. Like, I have 7 sponsees. Um, and like I tell all of my sponsees, like, look, I'm a full-time single mom. I don't have a problem taking you on and guiding you through the program and helping you recover. You just need to be respectful of my time, like I am of yours. Because if I'm taking time for you, that means I'm taking time away from my kids. I'm taking time away from my personal life on top of my kids. And like it works. My sponsees are all like besties with my kids. So that's pretty much where I'm at. Like I still do a lot of service. I still go to, I try to go to 3 meetings a week. Doesn't always work. But like I said, I do a lot of service, so I'm always present, and my phone's always on, so anybody can always call me. People can always reach out to me. People may not see me for months at a time, but then when we see each other, it's like we never, missed a beat.
No, not me.
No, never.
So the thing is, of course, you were forced essentially into sobriety, of course, having to go to jail.
Hmm.
Then you were court ordered treatment. So like where within that process of the 18 months in jail and then however much time you spent treatment, like that it clicked for you that this is what you wanted?
Um, I think it was having to jump through the hoops to go get my kids. And then when I got out there, my youngest daughter telling me that she forgot my name.
Okay.
That was like, that's why whenever I share my story, I always share that because, like, to me, that was a pivotal moment of like, okay, all of my dumb shit led up to this moment. And this child that I birthed and was, a stay at home mom with for the first 18 months of her life, like, doesn't remember my name. Like, this
Okay.
is what my addiction has brought me to. And, and to be honest with you, after being abstinent for so long, um, I realized that the pain physically and emotionally was so far greater when I was using than not using. Like I'm still in chronic pain every day, but you see me, you would never know.
Mm-mm.
Other than me sitting for a long period of time and going to stand up and everything popping and cracking or like
Well, girl, you need a reduction is what you need. Like, that would help your back so much.
I know.
I mean, that I think was the first thing everybody notices about you.
Yeah, that and I give the best hugs.
Ugh, your hugs are good hugs. So I noticed the one thing, one of the first things too that I noticed about you was that you are always surrounded by people in the queer community.
Yes.
Why is that?
Um Probably because I'm very non-judgmental and I don't care. So I grew up in a small town outside of Atlanta. I mean, it's not super small, but it's small. And my school was not very integrated. I think there might have been a couple black people, maybe a Spanish person or two, and like one mixed family. Um, and then, but like my dad's best friend, who I call my uncle, who actually just celebrated 35 years clean. Um, he, like I wasn't I wasn't raised to be prejudiced or racist or anything like that, but I was never really around it. When I moved down here to Florida, it was the complete opposite for me. And I was okay with it, and my dad's best friend is black, so like, his son was like my little brother. He actually was murdered not long before I found out I was pregnant with my twins. So one of my twins' middle names is named after him.
Oh,
So like I'm not judgmental in any way, shape, or form. To me, I don't care what you look like. I don't care who you go to bed with, you know? And like at the end of the day, as long as you're happy, that's all that matters. And I've always been, first of all, I'm 6 feet tall and as we can all tell, I'm not skinny. You know what I mean? So like I was judged when I was younger. I don't want to say necessarily that I was bullied, But like I went through some stuff growing up, so like I can understand being on the other side of that. I have a sponsee who is no long or an ex sponsee who is still very part of my life and very involved with my kids, who is biologically a man but identifies as a female, and
Mm,
I sponsored her for almost a year.
okay.
And like I was very open to the community before that, but like that opened my mind to like the whole transgender world, the whole, you know, however you want to phrase it. I don't want to offend anybody.
Offense. Yeah.
Yeah. So however you want to phrase it, but that's, to me, like, again, I don't care what you do in your personal life, who you go to bed with,
Yeah.
what you choose to dress like. And yes, I'm very much a female, but when have you seen me in a dress?
Never. I think your ex boyfriend was more of a female than you. And I didn't know you were talking about you sponsored somebody trans for a year. I didn't know you sponsored Zach.
I'm done. No,
Love
I
it.
didn't.
Anyway.
My ex actually sponsored him.
Oh my god, that's crazy. So have you okay, so in this whole process of getting your kids back, because of course the way you got them back wasn't through a legal system. It was going in a sense you just taking
Hmm.
what's yours. Because I mean, of course there was no um custody at that time. So like have you had to go through any courts regarding your kids and the custody and everything like that?
Other than with my family member, no, because when I filed for
Okay.
divorce, my ex-husband is, like I said, not present. By his choice and by my kids, they want nothing to do with him. Um, when I filed for divorce, I put in my divorce papers that he had to go to rehab and he needed to have at least a year clean or sober before he could have any contact with the kids. And I wanted full custody. He never even responded to the paperwork nor showed up to the hearing. So I have full 100% custody, parental control, everything of my children. And even though he has attempted to reach out to me, I've told him that the kids want nothing to do with him. I'm not forcing it, but if they wanted to, I would allow it. But
Of
due
course.
to the divorce decree and the way that I worded it in the papers, he has to go to the courts to request.
Of course. And I mean, and that's the thing is like um oh my god! And I had such a good question, and I just blanked. Oh, there we go. I remember now. So, how does it feel to be somebody that was in active addiction, being put in jail, several felonies, to snatching your kids away from the ex, to now having 100% custody of your kids?
Sometimes I'm still in shock about it. So like here's the thing. Like I'm going to say this because whoever may be watching may be somebody that has multiple felonies like I do. Um Granted, none of mine are violent or drug related. However, that doesn't always hinder you. My concern was like I've never had an issue being able to find a job. I've never had an issue wanting to do a trade or anything like that. Um, you know, I 4 years ago, I think it's 4 years ago now, 3 or 4 years ago now, started doing taxes. And I was able to become a tax preparer through the IRS. Um, Even as a convicted felon, like on the application, it asked me, have you ever been convicted of a felony? And I said yes. And I was totally honest. And I was like, I am a productive member of society with X amount of years in recovery. I was in active addiction when I got these felonies, but I've been abstinent from everything and this and that, whatever. And because I was completely transparent, they granted me my
CPA.
authorization. No, I'm not a CPA.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
They granted me my authorization to be able to file taxes on other people's behalf, which means
Oh,
that
okay.
they can actually sign a a POA, a power of attorney, for me to represent them with the IRS.
Oh,
So
that's crazy.
yeah, and I've owned businesses. I've helped start businesses. Like, I've done all kinds of things in my recovery. And, like, for anybody that's watching that might be concerned, like, there's a life past addiction. And as long as you're honest, don't be afraid to say you're in recovery.
That's the truth. Honestly, I think with any jobs that I've ever been in, even when I was getting a job at a hospital out here, I was very honest about being in recovery and everything like that. And like nobody blinks an eye. It was more about like, oh my God, that's amazing. Like good for you. The thing is, more people deal with addiction issues than you realize.
Yeah.
And most people, even if they may not deal with an addiction issue, they most likely have somebody in their life, whether it's a friend or a family member, that has. So they know just how hard it is to come out of addiction and to stay clean or stay sober, whatever you want to use.
Mm-hmm.
And move forward with their life. And so that was kind of lead to my last question is, what out of 8.5 years, okay, you've gone through a lot. You've gone through divorcing your ex. You've gone through a family legal battle trying to take your kids. You've gone through a relationship recently that ended. You've being an NA, you've had countless friends that have been lost due to the disease of addiction. So what, let's push your kids out of the side. So let's keep them out of this next question. What has stopped you from picking back up?
I love my life today. I finally am in love with myself. I love the people that I'm surrounded by. The family that I have today is chosen. And a lot of people know me, but my circle is very small. The people that I allow close to me and close to my heart have rode through all of this with me and been supportive through it all. And I wouldn't give that up for anything in the world. The feeling of my phone ringing and it being somebody telling me I'm going to get high and there's nothing you can do to stop it, and the phone call ending, you know what, I think I'm just going to go to bed. Like, there's no better feeling to me than that.
That is very true. No, honestly, being reached out to and being trusted feels absolutely amazing for somebody to open up to you like that. So the last and final question I have for you, of course, is what would you say to the person that is in active addiction now, or that's sober curious? What would you say to them?
Come give us a try. Come give this side a try. And if you don't see the beauty in the clarity of understanding like who you really are, then let us love you until you can love yourself.
That's I love that saying. I mean, although like you and I, we love our sex.
I love you.
I love you too, girl. But again, thank you so much for coming on and joining today, even with the half hour of technical difficulties.
No.
Thank you for listening to our episode. If you want to be notified about every new episode release, hit that subscribe button. Make sure to check out our website at thesoberunicornpodcast.com. Don't forget, everybody, don't be normal, be a unicorn, but better yet, be a sober unicorn.